Happy Monday. Today, oop, smashed into my heater. Happy Monday, and I'm not working today. It's a federal holiday in the United States. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Today we are going to just try to do a maximum 2 hours of just working on this FPV Combat project, which is a project of building 3 slightly modified Flite Test Arrow planes with flight controller, iNav, and the FPV Combat IR tag, laser tag type system. I have made a little progress. I've cut some wings. Here's all the wings. I've cut some spars. I cut all the winglets. I received a box from Palulu that has the female connectors that we need to finish all of the wiring. So what else? That's it. So it's not very exciting. So as usual, but I thought, like I said, I was going to do this build on a live stream. Now I thought, you know, it's cutting out all these wings and cutting out and gluing all these spars and cutting out all these winglets. Pretty boring. But I thought I would go through the process of how I get to a pattern. This is a wing, so we have basically, I've cut 4 wings. We have 2 more to cut. I was only intending to have 1 more to cut by this time, but right now we have 2 more to cut. So we have a left and right wing, and we have 1 more spar. So I've already printed out the pattern for the last spar, but I thought maybe I could go through the process of doing the wing. I don't know if I should go through the whole process or not, but this is what I do. And I'm going to go switch to the computer here. 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're at the computer, and what we will do is Illustrator. And it will actually not come up on this center screen because it's not my default desktop. So, but there. Now it will. How about that? Okay, so what we do, let me see if I can find the entire, like what you would get from Flite Test. So in my RC Aircraft FT Arrow. Is this it? No, we want a PDF. We would get a PDF. Oh, it's going to take its time to load the preview here. Sometimes you get a preview down here. I'm going to open that one and see what it looks like. So basically the process is, oh, you get to pick the page. Here we go. So we'll open a page from when you download the PDF from Flite Test. And again, I don't even know if they still have these downloads available, but they did at one point. So I'm going to pick page 3 of 4 that has which wing on it. This is the right wing, and that's the left wing. I think that's the left wing. So that's the wing I want. So page 3 of 4. And so we'll just say okay to the error message about the font. So now what we need to do is just grab, again, I've already done this several times, but I'm just going through the process from the very beginning. Uh-oh. I'm having bad connection issues. So sorry about that. I don't know what to do. Okay, so what we do is we use the selection tool in Adobe Illustrator and we grab basically all this. We grab, and we're going to end up grabbing stuff we don't need. Oh, why did that not work? Okay, hold on, let me try that again. A direct selection tool. Do the direct selection tool. Now so Adobe Illustrator direct selection tool. And that's what you're getting. So now we're going to copy that, Control C, and then we're going to open a new start a new document. And we'll call this left wing. And I'm going to make it legal, but it's really going to be, it doesn't really matter at this point. Let's make it tabloid. Let's make it as big as we can for now. And we're going to do something different in a second. So here, now we're going to paste V. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the artboard tool to make the artboard bigger. That just helps me see what's going on. And it also defines what gets printed later. So let's just make sure we have the artboard covering the wing, like so. Now what we want to do is use the direct selection tool to just highlight a bunch of stuff and get rid of it that we don't need, like that. Delete. And if you want to keep the throw gauge in, you can keep the throw gauge in. And here's what I'll do. I'll take the throw gauge and I'll move it closer inside here. Okay, then we're going to just highlight this and delete, and highlight all this and delete. And so now we should have nothing but the wing. Let's just make sure there's nothing else. Oh, there's another thing over here. So let's get that, delete that. Okay, so now we have our wing extracted from the Flite Test PDF. So when you get Flite Test, you get this whole page, and you could print that whole thing out and deal with it, but that's not what I'd like to do. So I've got this left wing here. Let's just save it, save as a copy. No, let's just save. And let's just go left wing, and I'll just say, call it demo, so I know I did this. I've already made a left wing, of course, because I do this all the time. I print these wings. Now we need to just set it up for printing. So let's just refine it a little bit. Let's get our artboard tool back and let's get it closer to the edges. That's close enough. Oh. Like so. Okay, so let's go back to our selection tool. Now we're going to just set it up for printing. So let's go to print. This is kind of a key part. I'm sorry about the video. YouTube is telling me the video is not smooth. So that sucks. Okay, so here is where we need to set up a custom print. So what we're going to do is do legal, and then we're going to do tile full pages. This is the critical thing that you can do with Adobe Illustrator, and this is one of the main reasons I'm using Adobe Illustrator to achieve this. So now what I want to do is get this, and I wish I could zoom this in, but you can't. So they should make this dialog box bigger. Adobe, if you're listening out there, you don't care what I say. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move it up like that. And what I'm trying to avoid is having the borders of the pages in a critical spot that I might not be able to cut extrapolate the cut, because there are some gaps when you get the pages. So now I'm going to just say done, and that's going to save this printing, and I'm going to save the file again. So now let's go print it. After it saves, it's saving to a network drive that's kind of slow right now. So okay, so I need to go load the paper. I'm going to go load the paper. Critical part of printing is to have the paper loaded. Okay, and I've got some legal size paper here, and it will go into the external tray. Sorry, there's no camera in here at this point. Soon. 2022, coming in 2022. That sucks that the video says it's not streaming well. Open widget, error, YouTube, messages, analytics. I don't know what else to do. My apologies. I guess it's my internet. I don't know what to say. Am I syncing something? Let's take a look at what's going on here in my tray. See if I've got any kind of, no, not really. No OneDrive, nothing like that going. Okay, so now we're going to print. My apologies. Again, my apologies. Again, it saved the setup, so we're just going to print all the tiles and just by pressing the print button. Oh, I didn't show you that. My bad. I went here, print, and I just pressed the print button, and now it's printing. So I'll be right back. I must go get the copies off the printer. Did I run out? No. Okay. Okay, so what I get is a stack of paper, and what I want to end up with is this. So what we're going to do is start. Oh, there's an empty paper. I hope that doesn't mean I have an issue. So let me get this camera going here. And another apology, this blurry video on this camera is not due to the streaming issue that I'm also experiencing right now. It's due to the fact that this camera is a piece of crap. But it was good in its day. It was a present from my mom, so I don't want her to be insulted. It was good like 25 years ago. Okay, so I'm basically going to line these up. I'm going to turn this way so I can see better. And what I'm going to end up with is keep like this. So this is the first row. So I'm going to take these here and set them aside and excuse me. What I found with cutting these wings is that the first sheet is a little off. So now what I do, and so this is kind of a pain. It would be great if I had a giant large format printer or something, but of course I don't have that, and neither does most people who make these wings. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is use this is the leading edge line, and I want it to be straight across both pieces of paper using this straight edge. And that is pretty close. So I'm going to go with that. And I am going to tape it down. I need to clear my throat really bad. Oh, hi. Somebody said something. Robert's here. Listening from work and the video is fine. Well, thanks, Robert. Happy Monday. I hope work is going well. I am lucky enough to have the day off today. It's a federal holiday in the United States, and I work for the government. So there you go. Well, I work for a university, which is the government. Okay. Anyway, YouTube is telling me that the stream is not healthy at this point. But there's, Robert says, reports from the wild that the internet seems to be fine. So now we're going to get this lined up. Again, I'm probably getting my head in the way, but this is where you got, even though the edges of the paper might not line up, you want the lines to line up. That's what's important. And I'm going to use the lines, you know, cut with a straight edge. Oh, I went the wrong way. I'll get it. I'll get it. This is a tedious process a little bit to get it exactly right. And so I'm not shooting for exactly right. I'm just shooting for close enough. Robert's doing a little maintenance there in the chat. Okay. Now we move to the next row. I've got that lined up pretty good. Let's check, just kind of double check. Looking at the score lines here, it looks pretty good. Our wing is coming into shape. So we can start from the back, and I don't need all this extra paper here, so what we'll do is we'll just cut it off. I save that for leveling my 3D printer, the extra scrap sometimes. Yeah, I use a piece of paper to level, which is terrible. My 3D printing is like circa 2014. Really, circa 20. Well, my printer was started in 2014, but technology is probably 2010. So that one is kind of off. So actually, I'm going to start from the other end. I usually start from the other end. So sorry, did this a little wrong. Didn't follow my usual procedure, and that's to get the front of it, the front of the plane. So now we're going to get this lined up, and that's a more critical cut. And that's pretty close. It's close enough. So we'll tape it down. Again, I know what I'm cutting because I've built enough of these, so I don't need it to be exactly right. Because I can see as I'm cutting that if it's got an issue with things lining up, I kind of know where to put the straight edge to make it sure it's going to work out. And that isn't actually that hard. It's not like I've gained a great skill or anything. Don't get me wrong. So now I'm not even going to line up the rest. So I've gotten these 4 sheets of paper good enough. And so then I'm just going to fit in the other pieces. I don't have to worry as long as I just get the edges of the paper touching and lined up and square for the most part. And then this little last piece here, same deal. I'm just going to stick it right in there. Not worry about exactly where it lines up with the other pieces. And you'll see why when I cut it. Because you're not going to worry about... Okay, so there we go. What we want to do is put enough tape on here so we have kind of a cohesive single sheet of paper that doesn't flop around too much. Now what we will do is, what I normally do with these is I put them on the foam board with using one of the straight edges of the foam board. So like I'm going to line up the edge of the paper exactly with the edge of the foam board. So that's a cut that'll be done in advance. So what I will do is I usually use this edge when I cut these wings, at least the 4 wings I've cut so far. So again, we will line up the ruler and just use a utility knife, which is what I use to do all my cutting here, like so. We'll cut that off. Then what we will do is just make this a little bit, this paper, just so it's not so unwieldy. Cut it around close to the border of the wing. Robert does the same leveling process. Yeah, I mean, I've had problems, but only when I don't level it properly. It's not, the leveling with the paper is not the issue. It's doing the leveling properly, which early on I wasn't very good at it. I didn't have the patience or something. I don't know. But no, actually, I shouldn't say that. My very first print was a success. In fact, my very first print, 3D print, was a print of the filament guide, not the filament guide, a filament guide for the ANET A8, and it is still on the printer to this day. My very first print. So yeah, there you go. And I leveled it with a piece of paper. And I also use masking tape for PLA printing. Masking tape on ANET A8. I don't use, well, I have 2 printers now. I have 2 ANET printers. I have an ANET A8 and an ANET A8 Plus. And the only, it's not that I have brand loyalty or anything. It was just super cheap, that ANET A8 Plus. So I used it. I wanted to use it as a platform for having a 300 millimeter square print bed, which so far I haven't totally utilized, but the main reason was to build a bigger center pod for a wing. Okay, so this is what you should end up with. So now we have 2 patterns left to build 2 wings. Again, I've cut 4 wings already for the 3 planes. So 3 planes, 6 wings. So what we need now is some foam board. So we'll start with the pattern we just cut, I guess, the left wing. Now, this foam board that I got, it's usually not this warped. It's usually flatter. But I bought, that's all they had, and that's what I got. I bought a stack of them, a huge stack. So, that will not matter. When you fold it, it will be flat. The fact that there's a curve in here, these all the spars came from curved foam board like this, and they're not curved. Well, at least I don't think they are. Nope. They're straight. So everything will straighten out when you fold it, and it'll get taped and folded and reinforced and glued, and it will not, you don't need to worry about it, the foam board being off kilter like this. Just, this isn't like this is not rocket science here. Okay, so let me switch cameras here to this camera, and we will 450 by 450 by 650 on my bigger printer. 350, 350, 450, nice, very sweet. Those are some nice build size. I mean, of course, for most of my parts are tiny, and the things that I design and print, little camera mounts and stuff, pretty tiny. Even the little mount that's up here, those are pretty tiny things, so any printer will print those. But I want to build some bigger things, and I need a bigger printer. So the ANET A8 for like less than, I think it was less than $165. That's huge. Okay, let's tape this down. And then I will talk about what I'm doing. And first of all, let me talk about where I'm going to cut. So when you get the arrow wing pattern, you'll see on the actual pattern from Flite Test, it says remove for optional electronics pod. And then you see these pieces over here, these squares over here, rectangles over here. These are for the pod fittings to fit in there, and you glue it together. Well, we're not building that exact plane. So we're fitting our wing onto a 3D printed pod. This 3D printed pod that has a flush edge on it. So what we do is we cut along this dotted line for remove for electronics pod, and then we cut along this line. In fact, going back to the 3D printer, the reason we're not using the full wing is because I couldn't make a pod big enough with my ANET A8. So I made this distance from here to here is just, it's about 100 and almost 200 millimeters this way. A little bit more. It just barely fits. You'll see. Look, let me stick it on there. See the pod, the front of the pod, that's the back, lines up with that, and the front lines up right there. So I couldn't make a bigger piece on the 3D printer, which is why I bought the ANET A8, and I have a design that fits the bigger wing size. But anyway, so we're going to cut the wing on this line here and on this line here. I wasted too much time talking about that, but that's what we're doing. So we don't care about this corner out here. So to save space and save foam for later projects, we'll get that pretty close to the edge there, like so. And then we can start taping it down. We make sure the edge is lined up here. Oops, I just messed it all up. Hold on. Just messed it all up by moving it. And make sure the edge is lined up with the edge. And make sure the corner is within the corner of the foam, the edge of the foam. And we can start taping it down. The pod that doesn't fit a battery. Yeah, the Flite Test pod does not fit a battery, exactly. This is why I came down this road in the very first place. This is why I am here. It turned out for the better because it made me design that pod. That pod was one of the first things that, the reason I wanted to learn parametric drafting or drawing, whatever you call it. First with FreeCAD and now with Fusion 360. That pod is what motivated me in the so the fact that Flite Test couldn't make a spot for a battery got me into 3D printing. Not really, but yeah. I mean, I would have gotten into 3D printing anyway, but Flite Test, the two planes that I started out with Flite Test, the two planes were the Flite Test Arrow, this plane, the wing, these wings, and the Flite Test Tiny Trainer. And both of those planes have terrible allowance for battery situations. So they're both supposed to be like your beginner wing and beginner plane. The Tiny Trainer is a beginner 4-channel or 3-channel plane. Anyway, that's the thing about Flite Test. It forces you to figure stuff out and to actually learn, because you can't actually take the plane that they get, the plans that they give you exactly, and make it work. And if you notice, if you watch the Flite Test videos for the Flite Test Arrow and for the Tiny Trainer, they never show you where the battery is. They never show you exactly what battery they use. They never show you where it's placed. They just don't. They skip over that part. They'll spend 5 minutes on putting the control horn in, and then they skip over the whole figuring out the CG at the very end. They'll show you checking the CG. They'll check the CG in those early Flite Test build videos, but not actually figuring out the CG. They skip that part. So as a novice plane person, I had to learn that, forced you to learn. They didn't spoon feed it to you, I guess. So I guess in the long run, it's a good thing. Okay, enough babbling. Now we're going to actually cut. We're going to cut the wing. So the way I cut the wing is, I'm left-handed, so I've got to go this way, and now I've got to move this stuff as far out of the way as I can, because I'm trying to get under the camera here. Sorry about the blurry camera. Ooh, it's back to excellent connection. But my apologies for the blurry camera. Someday I'll get a nicer camera up here. So what we'll do is start cutting, and I'm just going to kind of work. I'm going to cut the score lines first, and the slot for the servo first. Then I will cut, and I'll work my way this way, and then I will cut around the outside. So it's very simple process, and my big fat bald head will be getting in the way several times. So when you do the score cuts, also it's a fresh blade. I'm starting with a fresh blade. Sharp blade is very important when cutting this foam board, this Dollar Tree foam board. So of course I'm not cutting all the way through here. These are score cuts. I'm basically cutting about halfway through, about 2.5 millimeters into the foam. So, and then just to keep the whole thing from falling apart as I cut, I'm going to add a few pieces of tape. So you need a lot of tape to do this kind of stuff the way I do it. Now we're going to do the next score cut. And as you can see, I did a pretty good job. Well, maybe you can't see because the camera's so damn blurry, but I did a pretty good job of lining up all the pieces of paper. My printer isn't perfect, and the way it grabs the paper, the registration isn't perfect on each subsequent sheet, if that makes any sense. Oh yeah, all the extra nose weight. And so the pod fixes that problem too. It fixes the problem of the extra nose weight, because it allows you to put weight in the rear put weight in the nose by spreading the nose out. It allows you to put the battery horizontally, I guess you'd say, near the front. And that brings the CG much better. So I have 2 arrows right now currently that actually fly. They both have the pod, the 3D printed pod, of course, that I designed. But one of them is an iNav plane, and one of them is just bare metal. I guess it has a little stabilizer in it, doesn't it? It has a little stabilizer in it, but the stabilizer isn't very... It's gotten out of whack, and I haven't been able to get the gain set right with the little screw adjustments lately. I have to work on that again. But anyway, you can just hand launch that thing. The CG is fine. In fact, I have to put more weight in the back, not in the front. I put the motor further out back. I made a little extender piece. I think that's on Thingiverse, the little extender pieces. This 3D printed pod is still not on Thingiverse, the one that's for this FPV Combat. I gotta get that together. I guess I'm waiting till it actually gets built so I can have pictures of it. That's my excuse at this point. Now, I usually do this first. I work my way down, and I should have stopped to do the servo hole, but we'll just do it in a second here. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to add a few more pieces of tape again, kind of around here, so it doesn't flip-flop around too much on me. Then we're going to cut these out. And sometimes I don't even use straight edge for the short ones. I just wing it with my hand. But since this one didn't print because it's so close to the edge, I'll use a straight edge. We'll start down that way. We won't cut all the way through here until we're done folding it. You'll see if we get that far today, since I work so slowly. 43 minutes, so 40 minutes because I started the thing 5 minutes before I actually started. Okay. So we've basically done all the score. Oh, no, we didn't. Very important to do this score cut here. Well, it's mostly a score cut. At the very end, it's an all the way through cut, but we'll fix that at the very end. Score cut. Okay, so now what we will do is we will start working our way around. So we'll start with the line that I said that I would cut. It's different than the pattern. So this is the line right here. We're going to line it up with the inside of these little tab holes. And what we will do is, what I usually do when I'm doing an all the way through cut is I do a part way through, maybe even a second time part way through. I'm just going to go all the way to the end. And then I go all the way to the mat board, mat cutting board. So now we've cut all the way through. So now this one, this line here, because of the way it's folded and it's supposed to line up, Josh Bixler actually figured out the angles to make it line up after you fold it. So what I don't pay attention to every single angle because it's not that important. So what I do is I just do it's just two angles. One for all these three segments here, and then one angle slightly off by about 7 degrees there. If that makes any sense whatsoever. So first we'll cut this one. Again, I'm trying to be careful and cut it. Pay attention to what I'm doing. Not go inside. Move the heater back. Then I'm going to shift the straight edge, sort of like to follow that line there. And then this is where we cut all the way to the end of the, end of the foam board. And my blade is already not as sharp as it could be. Look at that. Okay, so that is that cut. We've gone all the way through now. We'll do this one again. I should have done that before. I wasn't finishing what I started over here. Oh, and then the other thing that I've done kind of out of order is usually the next thing I do is the curves. Take care, Robert. Busy day. Have a good busy day, Robert. I'm glad I don't have a busy day. So I usually do these curve cuts first before I do the straight cuts, because I want the blade to be as sharp as possible, because the blade is going to be dull by the time I get done cutting this wing. Dull, dull, dull. These blades get dull pretty quickly. Okay, so now let's work our way around straight edges, outside straight edges. That didn't quite line up right, did it? That's all right. That's close enough. And we're just going to cut all, whoa, along the straight edge. It's important to get it along the straight edge and not a couple millimeters away. Just moving our way around. Soon we will have a wing. And after this wing, I got to remember to plug in the glue gun, because then we'll cut out the spar and then we'll glue the spar. Then we'll go to the next step of the wing build, which is to tape it. I always tape it before you do any folding or angle, bevel cuts or anything. Get the tape on there, get the pattern, the paint, whatever you're going to do to it. Paint it while it's flat. We're not painting, we're going to be doing Sharpie design today. Now it's going to start falling apart on me all over the place, so I'm going to just put a few pieces in here just so I don't get it all discombobulated too early. I didn't do these round corners. I want to do the round corners before I do the straight edges next to them. It's just easier to get the blade follow the pattern. I don't know why, but it is. Okay, we're almost complete with this cutting. I was thinking to say almost complete with the wing, but no. Takes work to do this. Excuse me. So the Flite Test Arrow wing was one of the very first pieces of foam board I cut. And I experimented. I cut the wings, I think almost 2 years before I actually made my first plane. Because I cut the wings in 2014, I'm pretty sure. It was in 2014 when I used to watch all those flight tests. 2014 and 2015. And that was back when they were coming out with new planes a lot. Josh Bixler was. He was designing planes and giving away the plans. I don't think that's a thing anymore. Well, let's put it this way. It's not a thing for some of their planes. Some of their planes are now not free, which is fine. I understand. But had they done that from the very beginning, I might not. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't have been building flight test planes. I would have found some other design, or maybe I would have been forced to design my own, not knowing what I was doing, making an idiot of myself. So anyway, now that we're done cutting, we throw the whole pattern away. We get all the pieces off the foam board carefully so as not to pull up the paper. This tape is good for that. It doesn't. This is tape from a store called Staples. It's an office supply place. Let me see if I can show you what kind of tape it is. I don't know. Where is the tape drawer? I've moved it. Is it this kind? Yes. It's Staples Invisible Tape. And it looks like it's not the clear stuff. It's like the semi-clear stuff. Does that make any sense? It's not shiny, it's matte. It's a matte finish and not a shiny finish. So I buy that stuff like in a 5-pack or more. So we've been streaming almost an hour. So we're halfway done with today's build session. And I suppose that most people don't get to build planes on Monday like me today. Because most people have to work today. The semester starts tomorrow at the university, so I will actually be going to work today, later this evening, just to make sure everything is ready in my computer lab. But okay, so now we must complete our way around and get this thing out, which means we need to make sure that all of our cuts along the outside go all the way through, and we can see where our deficiencies are. And I should have done that with this before. Okay, we're pretty close. we just need to make sure that we're all the way through. We're almost there. It's usually around the curved parts that are the stickiest. Should come out now. Oh, just a little bit on this corner. There we go. We're free. So there, we went from a pattern to a actual ready to build wing. Almost ready to build. We're going to cut a few of the things, the corners out here. Sometimes I wait till after I've taped it to do this. I don't know which is the best. Okay, so the next step in building this, you know what, I'm not going to even bother right now cutting out the spar. The last spar, I've cut out 5 of the 6 spars that I need. This is what I end up with when I make it. You can see it fits the pattern. Left and right only determine the angle of the servo hole. And when you put it in, you're going to be gluing it, and you line it up with that hole right there. There'll be a hole where that is. So I also reinforce the spars at the critical point where the servos are. This point in the wing here, let me demonstrate. The other things that get glued in when we build the wing is this along here is where it will crack. So I do the spar. For some reason, let me show you this. And this is another weird thing about what Flite Test did. Look at what they did there. You see. Look at that for a second. It's probably obvious. But by having these little cutouts here, that makes it so that you weaken the spar even more at its weakest point, which is where this hole is. So that I don't understand. You don't need those holes for anything. You do not need that. So don't cut those out. Cut it straight across. The only reason there's things in there is because I wasn't being careful with my knife, and I ended up cutting the inside. But I always reinforce the spar with these little popsicle sticks. And then, after the spar is glued in, which it gets glued in approximately here, the excess part of the spar gets cut off. I also glue in popsicle sticks, like here and here. So that reinforces this line here, where the weakest, where when you crash, that will be the point where you break it. And let me just demonstrate with the actual built wing. The pod doesn't break when you crash usually, thankfully, but the wing will break. And here, even though I have all this reinforcing in this wing, this one has been crashed severely, major crash, and it needs, the whole plane needs to be rebuilt from scratch. But it still flies, so I've just reinforced the parts. I've glued it back together, but this, you can see where it's cracked. That is this line. That represents this line here through the wing. That's your weakest point. So it's 2022, and I've been building these since 2016, so I guess I have a little bit of experience. 2014, I actually said I built my first wing, but I didn't. I followed the flight test. I even remember cutting these little things out. Like why? Why would you put those in there? That's crazy. But beyond that, I gotta say that Josh Bixler's design, love it. It's got shortcomings, but it's way better than what I have ever done. So there you go. Thank you, Josh Bixler. So back to building. Okay, I didn't want to be like ungrateful or anything. I sound ungrateful about this design. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And Flite Test back in the day, I mean, that was I eagerly awaited every new plane. And those days came to an end when they stopped releasing new planes like they used to. But it's all like all good things in life. They don't last forever. We got what we got. We got some good planes, and they are still coming out with good planes. And if I knew how to get access to them by paying a little bit of money, I'd probably do that. I just haven't taken the time to figure all that out yet. I do not want to buy, let me look at the camera again. I do not want to buy, for the most part, I mean, there might be a reason why I would want to buy the speed build kits. I've never bought one before. But the reason, like if one came with some cool landing gear pieces or something that you would not want to build yourself, that's fine. But I'd still want to have access to the full plan so I can do what I showed earlier, which is to just get what you need and cut it and redraw it if you need to, things like that. Okay, sorry, I went on another tangent. So what we're going to do next is we will not build another spar. That was the spar tangent. My apologies. What we're going to do next is we are going to draw our pattern onto the wing and color it in. And so I thought what we would do is what I normally do. Where's the pencil? Here we go. The leading edge goes from here to here. So these 2 points, this is the leading edge here. And what I'd like to do is just some stripes. Just a thin stripe. How about that? One thin stripe. So we'll go from, and we want to make it even on each one. So we're going to go from, okay, this is the top. This is the top of the wing, and this is the bottom, so we don't care what's down here. We want the pattern to be on the top. So there is our leading edge. What we normally do is I'll measure something here. Here, let me use the better ruler. So we're going to go from 10 millimeters. We'll just cross through that line, and 40 millimeters. We'll cross through that line. Does that make any sense? So then what I will do is I will get my long straight edge. We'll see how it looks here. We'll go from there to there, and there to there. Maybe we'll make it 60 millimeters. We'll go from 10 millimeters to 60 millimeters. There we go. So now we will draw a line from the leading edge point all the way through this point. Now we'll draw another line from that same leading edge point through this 10 millimeter point. And that's what we end up with our little stripe. So we're going to get out the Sharpies. Like I said, we're doing Sharpie paint today. This is a little tedious, but this is how we're going to decorate our combat wings for quick and ease of use. Ease of finishing. So basically I'm just going to draw it all out. I'm going to try to get the edges first. And when you cover it with tape, it ends up looking pretty good. It's not so bad. I mean, Kevin is an artist. One of the people that are getting one of these planes is an artist. So he could do way better. But we're not. Oh, this magic marker has seen better days. Uh-oh. It's run out. We'll just do it for the edges then. This one's run out. How about that? Do I have another giant one? I do. Oh, this one's a little bit better. There'll be some mistakes on here, and that'll be okay. These planes are not for show. They're not going to some museum or anything. Maybe I should turn on this mic a little bit so you can hear. Here, I'm going to, just for fun. Turn up that mic a little. That's the tabletop mic. You can hear all the little noises. So what we want to do is just get it covered in as much as possible. Now notice I'm not so good at getting the line lined up at the bottom of the marker. So I'm going to turn the wing around once I've gotten it colored in enough this way. I'll turn it around and we'll get up to the line again. Another thing I usually do is put a piece of paper under my palm, so I'm not getting sweaty palm on my plane. Hey Caroline, how are you? Looks like an FT Arrow. It is. Still have it on the wall. Cool. Speed build kits. Buying them direct just isn't worth it in the UK due to shipping. There are a few model shops that stock them here. So if I wanted one, I would support my local hobby shop. Yeah, well, cool. Glad to see you, Caroline. Happy New Year. I don't buy the speed build kits, like I just said, but I can understand why you'd want to buy one. Why people would want to buy one, I should say it that way. My flying buddies, Kevin and Andy, I think they've both bought a speed build kit of one type or another. So yes, this is an arrow wing. These are, I've built in the back over there are 4 more wings. This is wing number 5. We're building 3 exact FT Arrow with combat, with the FPV Combat system in them. This is what these build streams are for. Just to review. So now I'm going to have to get to a thinner magic marker here. When I get to this part, it gets harder for me do it properly, but we'll get it done. Let me find this little Sharpie here. Let's see how this, oh, that one's not very good. I hope I can find a good Sharpie. I hope I haven't exhausted my Sharpie supply. I should have bought some more colored Sharpies before. I wanted to do different colors besides black, but. Okay, this one is thin, so we're gonna just go right to the corner of the leading edge. Okay, getting there. I was just thinking about what am I going to do to differentiate. So I've got 3 wings. What am I going to do to differentiate them so when they're laying down we can see at a glance whose is whose. I asked them what their favorite colors were because I was going to be like Star Wars and have the red team, gold team, purple team, something, and then do just a stripe with tape, packing tape. Clearly I've abandoned that idea, even though I had it in my head a few days ago, because I'm doing magic markers now. But I only have really enough black magic marker to do these stripes. Okay, so there's our little stripe. The thing is that what are we going to do to differentiate? The other thing I normally do is put a Dollar Tree Ready board sticker on there. But we won't do it for these, I guess. So they should be, I don't know what we should do. I think I'm just going to tape it and go from there. Okay, so the next step is to tape. Let's see what tape we have. So for the top part, we're going to use, oh, that's what I can do. Is I guess I can put it on the bottom. We've got lots of purple and black tape. So we're going to try on the bottom purple and black. This one will be black. So the way we tape it, and this is, I'm going to have to switch cameras and stuff, so let me do a little rearranging here. Yes, I know, you've moved on from foam board. I've heard you say that before, and I think that's awesome. I'm trying to move on from foam board someday, but I really like it. There's a part of me that just, I don't know. It's the crash. It's the ability to crash and rebuild it. That's the part that I like about foam board the most. It's just, yeah, I need 3 wings. I'm gonna build 3 wings. It takes a lot of time, but I like spending the time to do it. They aren't the best flying as far as like comparing an FT Arrow to a, let's say, an AR wing, for example. I mean, there's no comparison, but that's okay. Like I said, no offense to Josh. This is a great design. Okay, so what we're going to do is tape, and I'm going to switch to this view here because we're going to have to go, and I should be careful with that mic. In fact, I'm going to turn that mic off again. And we will do some taping. So what you do for the taping, what I do, is I'm going to work my way from the back to the front. So I'm going to layer it with tape. And I've got a card, a little plastic card. And, oh, hot wire cutting. So that is interesting that you say that. Where is it? Let me get it off the wall. I'm going to take it off the wall. No, I'm not. I'll zoom in on it just for fun. Just for 1 second. Over there on my wall is my first playing around with designing a hot wire cutting. I want to build let me get back to my bearings here. I want to build a 4-axis hot wire foam cutter. And there is my first design on the wall up there, that little green thing, that thing. So I put in the airfoils, and you use this piece of software. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a great channel out there that that is about building that. Keith, what is his name? Anyway, very interesting that you say that. Yes, foam board cutting, or hot wire foam cutting, is something I'm really interested in. So I've started to buy, I have one of my little project boxes that's got some of the CNC pieces. I haven't designed a thing yet. I've been watching this Keith, what's his name's video. Yeah, the microphone on my desk is it's a Audio Technica. It's called a border mic. Maybe that's the same as a pressure zone mic. It's designed to be like on stage or something. Okay, so what we will do is get the tape started eventually. And so the first piece is the most important piece when you lay this down. And again, we're going to work our way from back to front. So not necessarily the most important piece, but it gets your foam board secured down. I'm going to overlap the edge a little bit. This tape is really crappy quality, by the way. I don't know where I got it. I think I got it when I was in Colorado at the hardware store. But okay, so we're going to kind of use this to push it down. We want the tape to hold the piece of foam board to our desk too, our workbench. And we'll just do the next row. We'll make sure our surface is clean. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to start tilting it a little bit. So I'm going to overlap at a different angle than I did the previous one, because I want to try to start to get lined up to the leading edge. And this is less than probably perfect way to do it, I'm sure, because there's the leading edge right there, and I'm going to be overlapping a few times. This tape also stinks. So where's our leading edge? Way up there. Look at that piece of crap. Okay. So I'm going to go like that. Oops. You probably can't see what I'm doing from this camera angle. Oh, and that's wrong. Crap. Crap, crap, crap. I made a mistake. We're going to cut it there. we are going to cut it there. No problemo. That's actually probably fortunate. We should probably try to do that. Now, we should probably do that again. We'll do like that. Oh, I left a little piece exposed, but that'll actually be in the 3D print, so it doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to cut it there again. Oops. I'm making a few mistakes here, folks, that I don't usually make when I'm doing this. It's interesting. There's a little mistake. The other thing is to use the card, of course, to get all the bubbles out. Yeah, no echoes, yes. Yeah, they're good mics. They're good mics. Okay, this should be the last piece of tape for the bottom. We're going to go right from the leading edge, right along the leading edge. That's where this should be. Close enough, close enough. So now the bottom is black. Now we'll do the top in clear. And we're going to do it completely reverse. We got to go from this way to the front. So we got to get some clear tape. I thought I got some clear tape out. I did. And I'm using Scotch long-lasting storage tape for this. So this bottom was some cheap hardware store colored tape. And the top is going to be, the clear tape is the long-lasting Scotch storage tape. So actually there's a little bit of this tape I'm going to cut back off when I glue this on. Okay, so now we're going to move to this side. I'm going to have to do it from the opposite side than I'm used to. We're going to overlap the edge here a little bit. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Forgot something, folks, and that's to erase my pencil marks. Let me do that. Clean it up a little bit. And let me fix this spot right here. Any other spots right there? Let me get this spot right here. Okay. McGuckin, yes, McGuckin's tape, Crosswind. Oh my God, hi Andy. I know that name. Yes, it's McGuckin's tape. McGuckin's tape. And it's kind of stinky. McGuckin's tape is kind of stinky. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're going to, again, we're going to increase the angle every time. So I'm starting at an angle. And let me, I guess it's in shot. I guess that's where we're going. And make sure the top was cleaned. Oh, that's close. Close call there. So now we're going to angle it even more. Just get a little overlap there. That does add to the weight, but also makes it stronger. We're covering about half. And then this will be the last one that I can successfully just angle it without massively overlapping. Why do I do it this way? I don't know. It kind of looks cool because it does. You do get to see the grooves after a while. So we're just going to go with it. When you do your taping, you can tape it the way you want. This is the way I do it. Now getting the bubbles out is also very important. Oh, one more. This one we're going to go right along the leading edge and overlap it as much as we can. So we have a little bit of extra strength. Okay, that is the wing taped. One down, 5 more to go. Now I will not be doing all this taping. That was my idea. That's why I cut all these other wings first before this one. I'm not going to have 40 hours of live streaming of me cutting and taping. We're just going to, this build isn't going to, it's going to be 3 planes, but yeah, it's just shitty right there. But, oh, that part will be hidden. That's right. So there it is. Ever use laminate rather than tape? Yeah. Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Let's put it this way. I've experimented with laminating pieces of foam board with, I have this and I have a regular iron, and I have 2 or 3 rolls of document laminating film that I've tried that somebody on RC Group said would be a good film. And it was way cheaper than plain laminating film. I should go find it. But anyway, I have not actually tried laminating a wing on a real plane. I've just tried laminating scrap pieces and testing how it works. Okay, so next we're going to cut this off of the table. And then we'll trim it up so that it's ready to be folded. Oh, and this tape, this McGuckin's tape, since Andy knows what it is. McGuckin's is a store in Boulder, Colorado. It's a great store. And they have this aisle, well, a section with all these colored packing tapes, kind of like what Tape Brothers has, which is a place that Experimental Airlines, a YouTube channel, used to promote. This colored packing tape. The problem is that it's very, I can't explain it. It rips in ways that you can't predict when you're cutting it. and you have to have a very sharp knife to cut it. And you have to make sure that it's stuck down to the foam board. And this tape stinks. Woo! It stinks like a stinky, like what is that smell? It's like from school or something. Okay, so here at the back, what I'm going to do is cut. I want to fold over this part at the back of the aileron. And I should have left more hanging off the end there. So I'll have to fix that. So I wanted to get the edges of the elevons, so that they're wrapped around with tape, like so. So now that we have done this part, well, we're almost done with this part, we will, oh, look at, I have a piece of dirt on there that I didn't get off. Sloppy work there, Selman. So the best wings will go to Andy and Kevin, and the worst of the 6 wings will go on my plane. I'll make a judgment call. But I'm trying to build them all of the same high quality. Huge rolls on eBay, stuff used on commercial machines. It works much, watch out for the heat. Yeah, so I did have a little issues. That's why I was experimenting with scrap foam board. I wanted to decide how hot that the iron needed to be. I'm just using a regular household iron for the flat spots, and then I have that other iron that I showed for the curvy spots. I guess I could go back to this camera. I'll go back here. Is that this camera? Here, yeah. So what I'm doing now is I am cutting out all the extra tape. It's all very wasteful. There's a lot of scrap, extra scrap stuff when you build a plane like this. Generate some refuse that you must take care of. And it's not recyclable in any way, shape, or form. So it's good to, again, have a very sharp, relatively new blade when you're doing this part of cutting the tape off. It's also good to have patience because it gets all stuck to your hands like that. Look at that, it's stuck. Get every little last bit off that you don't need sticking out. All the edges where of the elevons and stuff that I haven't reinforced with tape, I'll reinforce with glue. Now this little spot here is going to drive me nuts. I'm going to see if I can get the dirt out. Yeah, at least, yeah, look at that. I'm getting it mostly out. Little pieces of junk got in there somehow. Oh well. Okay. Now it looks worse. Lovely. Okay. Oh, I didn't quite finish. Did not finish the job I set out to do here. Let's get rid of all this tape. And this tape. The next part of this process will be doing the bevel cuts and preparing the areas, preparing the wing to be shaped into a wing. Thanks, Caroline. I don't know what all that Russian means, but I'm assuming that they're swearing at us in Russian or something. All right, now we will do the bevel cuts, and we have several bevel cuts to make. We have the bevel cut along the elevon, and we have a double bevel along the leading edge. And so just as the last time before we do the bevel cuts, let's take a look at the tape. There are a few bubbles. I'll get those out later after I see how it looks when it's built. The bubbles are all very small. Okay, so there's our wing when it's, I guess that's as wide as I can go. That is our wing when it's all finished. The taping is all finished. So the next thing is we got to do the leading edge. So we're going to do the leading edge carefully. And then what I do for this is I fold it completely over and I get my bevel cutting tool. What's our time coordinates? We're doing okay. We haven't finished a wing. One wing, 2 hours. And you wonder why it takes me so long to finish a plane. Sorry, Andy and Kevin. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. We're getting there. They've been very patient with me. Of course, Andy, I don't think I have his FPV Combat stuff yet anyway, so I have Kevin's and I have mine. Okay, so now what we're going to do is a bevel cut. A double bevel, as they say in Flite Test. And I'm using a 3D printed guide just to help me. And you want to go the thickness of the foam. This edge will be, let me say it's 3.5 millimeters to 4 millimeters. The blade is actually inside of that line. So you want the blade to be 4 millimeters. There's me knocking things off my desk. So you want to go as straight as possible. I went a little narrow towards the end here. Not on purpose. So now I will do the other side. I turn it over. And what you don't want to do is cut right through the foam. So you got to be missing the actual paper. You just want to be cutting through the foam and not the paper on the outside. So there's double beveled. Now what we're going to do is inspect it. And there's a little place, and let me see if I can show you, but where I didn't do it perfectly, and there's a little kind of, it's not going right down to the paper. So what we will do to fix that, and that's a common thing when I'm cutting, because I'm not, even though I've cut a lot of these wings, I'm not the best bevel cutter. But what I'll do is I'm just going to take my razor blade and kind of get rid of all this extra material. And again, your blade needs to be sharp. We're going to get rid of that extra material like that very carefully. And if you did your bevel cut right in the first place, you won't have to do this. This foam board will dull the blade so quickly. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Just a little bit right there. I don't know if you can see all that. Okay, so that's how your wing should fold. It should line up basically like that, close to it anyway. Square at the end, close to it anyway. Now we have our double bevel. I'm going to cut the bevel in here now. So this is the elevon. We're going to carefully do that, like so. Then we will set it on the table like this. And we will, once again, this is only a single bevel on the elevon side, not on the plane side. And you try to draw it back as straight as possible, watching your distance to keep it at 3.5 to 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters is optimal. And so now you can see that we have our elevon. Okay, now comes the part where we're not going to glue in any spars yet. We are going to, ooh, do I have the glue gun on? Of course not. Plug in your glue gun. Make sure it's armed with glue. Okay, so now what I will do is I'm going to take a barbecue skewer type thing, something that's pointy but not so sharp that it'll cut right through everything. And I'm going to go through, and I'll switch views here. I'm going to go through my score cuts. Again, all of this is just what the FT Arrow wing build calls for, like if you were to watch a flight test video. This part here. I'm not doing anything new here. So, this is what we've done to open this up just a little bit. So give it some space to bend. That's a nice, good bevel. It says Crosswind Jones. Thank you. It's I can send you the Thingiverse link. It's a Thingiverse. Okay, so here we're going to bend our plane wing. And so I'm just going to gently but firmly, while distributing the weight around, pushing it down together to make the shape. And the goal is to get this corner lined up with this corner and this corner lined up with this corner. Now, a lot of times what happens is they don't quite, this corner will actually overlap, and that's actually what you want. So I shouldn't say lined up. This one will overlap the bottom one by about 5 to 6 millimeters sometimes. So that's basically our shape right there. We've done it. And so we can fold up the elevon, and we can see that it's contacting. That's, see, Josh Bixler, he made a really cool design. Okay, so now what we need to do is put in the spar. Once the spar's in, we can start preparing for all the, actually, there's one thing we need to do before we put in the spar, and that is to cut out this hole right here. So we're going to cut this out. At least we're going to mark it. We're going to make sure it's scored all the way through so we can cut it out. Okay, so now we've scored through so we can see where our cutout is for our servo. Actually, we will be widening this, but this is what I use to line up the spar. So the way the spar works, again, flight test build video, this is the wrong spar because the angle is the wrong way. We need a left spar. So the way the spar works is that this hole will line up with this hole. This hole lines up with this hole. So when you glue it in, the spar follows the score lines, and then the hole follows that hole. So when we glue it in, it basically goes there. And then what I normally do is I make myself a nice line right here so that when I'm gluing it in, I know I'm in the right spot. So that's what we will do. The hot glue gun is heating up. So we're just going to double check our bevel again. Looks like a good wing. So let's check our glue, and give me 1 second here. Oops, I switched my mic off by accident. Okay, here's the glue. Okay, so we're going to glue our spar in. The other thing I'd like to do is kind of mark it here. Which means that I'm going to draw a line from there to there. I don't want to get any glue on this. I don't want to get any glue on this part right here. So I'm going to glue the spar itself, and then I'm going to place it down and have some, is it ready? It's actually not quite ready yet. Darn it. See if I've missed anything in the chat. It was a phishing malware link. Hey Caroline, I work in IT too. I'm an IT person at Kansas State University here in Manhattan, Kansas, where I'm located. And I love my job. I'm very fortunate to be an IT person at a university, and I have no college degree either, so there you go. There, I've just told my whole life story. I don't think she heard me because nobody's there. Nobody's here. Oh, maybe somebody's here. I don't know. I can't tell by the YouTube analytics screen. I have so few viewers that I'm fortunate for the nice people that are here, like Caroline and Robert, and, well, he's not here right now, but Andy, of course, Kevin, if you're watching. I'm happy you're all here. I'm not in this for the money or anything, so don't you worry. It's just for fun. Okay, am I actually ready to glue? You'd think I would be, but I'm waiting for the glue just to heat up a little bit more. Okay, here we go. Oh, I also need to have some pieces of foam board ready to wipe up in case I make a mess. Okay. I'll probably burn myself since I always do. Here's our hot glue. And down we go. And we're going to spread it out a little bit. And then we're going to make sure that it lines up with all of our, where we want it to line up to, all the way along, not covering the score lines, lining up with the servo hole, lining up with the score lines, lining up with the end line that I drew. We want to keep watching all those because when you first put glue on, it kind of floats around a little bit. Which is probably another reason why Caroline is such, I don't like foam board. This is a mess. It's an inexact science. It is. It's a very inexact science. It's a good thing that we've got trims on our radios to trim these planes, isn't it? Yeah, it will never fly like... Oh, if you're still here, Caroline, getting dinner out of the oven. Yeah, my life story wasn't that interesting anyway, Caroline, but I did just say that I work IT too. I work IT too. IT too. What was I going to ask you? Ah, darn it, I forgot. Oh. How did you just give up on the AR Wing Pro? That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about your opinion on the AR Wing Pro. Okay, so there is the the spar. We will also, like I said earlier, put in these two reinforcing pieces. Caroline, you built arrows, you know, they crack right along here. So this is why I have all this reinforcing. So we're going to put a popsicle stick like right there. I have to be careful not to go where the spar is going to go. So let us get a pod. Let me get one of our pods. Where are they all? Oh my gosh, I don't know where they are. Isn't that crazy? Okay, well, I have one of the pods right here, the one with all the electronic gizmos in it. So let me get all this, most of the stuff off of here. Okay. So what is happening here is this is how it fits on. Well, after it's folded, of course. So what we do not want is we don't want to get that in the way. Why am I? Yeah, I can put it there. Oh yeah, we don't want it to get in the way of this. Okay, so let's put this down. And let's draw a little line in there. That's what I usually do. Because I'm trying to find out where the spar is going to end up on the bottom. Like that. So basically we want this to be inside of there. And what will happen with the wood spar is that will go over it. Where are the wood spars? Or the carbon. Actually, I have carbon fiber. Let's get these out. I was going to use wood, but then I thought maybe Kevin and Andy would appreciate it more if we used carbon fiber. So I bought some carbon fiber. Okay, let me see if I can get it in here. So that's how it goes. It's going to be too long to fit on my desk over on this side here. I have to move it this way. Oh, I'm melting the wing. Thank goodness it had tape on it. Stupid idiot. I think this wing's going to be mine on one of my planes, on my plane. Okay, so basically what happens here is, I don't know if you can see that, but it gets shoved in there like that. Let me just look at my other plane. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart about how I did that before. Did I just shove it in? Yes, the spars go over the popsicle sticks. That is on purpose. So that's how that works, folks. Again, we're not making these planes to be super light. We're making them to be strong. My most recent foam board creation. Oh, cool. I'll go check it out. In fact, I'm going to, before I lose this in the chat somewhere, because sometimes I do that, I'm going to go over here. Oh, I have to use the other computer. I'm going to go over here, the other mouse. Come on, where are you? Come on, mouse. There you are. Sorry, folks, 1 second. Copy link, and then go to here, and go, just paste, not paste and go. Paste, and then we'll go back to my previous window. Okay. All right, sorry about that interlude there. I had to get Caroline's video link. Okay, we're gonna glue this down like so. This is not rocket science here. I don't know why it's taking me so long. Sorry about that, folks. It's just the way I build. We just go like that. Ouch, I got some hot glue on my finger. Just a little bit. And we put another one on this part. Set this aside. We put another one right here. And that will get us pretty close to the end of building this wing, because I said I would go for 2 hours. I can't imagine this being interesting for more than 2 hours. Okay, that's left a little extra glue there. Okay, get rid of that. There is an almost completed, at least the foam board part of the wing. So let us put it together, fold it up, and see how it folds. Now the reason I am not going to finish it here is because now the edges come up very well. So it's very well formed and cut. It's a success. We call that one a success. So the next step will be to put in the electronics in this. So we will put in, I will put in the servo, I will put in the whichever side this gets. Let's see, let me look over here. I'll show you the plane that I have and the way I lay it out. Of course, like I said, this is not exactly the same, but it's very close. So the GPS will be on this wing. I think we'll do it this way. So we have, this is how many radios we have. We have to do the VTX, the GPS, the 433 plane-to-plane radio that the FPV Combat system uses, and the receiver radio, which is also, it's a transceiver really. The R9 is a transceiver. It sends and transmits, because it transmits telemetry. So what we have is 4 radios. And so what we need to do is distribute the 4 radios as far out as possible. So here's what I'm thinking that we're going to do. Also, I'd like the GPS closer to the center, I guess, because reasons, I don't know, because it's, I don't know, it's just the idea of it being close to the middle of the plane seems to be what you would want. Okay, so in this plane here, we have 3 radios. We have the R9, which is out here at the end in the winglet. Let me see if I can get it in the shot here. So there's the R9. It's in the winglet. And then we have in the middle of the pod, we have the VTX, and off to the side, close to the middle of the pod, we have the GPS. So we have 3 radios, 1, 2, 3. So what I'm proposing is we have the same or similar layout, and that we put the GPS in the same location on the left and the VTX on the right. Is that the way I wanted to do it? Or was I going to do it this way? No. I'm going to move it. So what we're going to do it slightly different than this plane. We're going to put the GPS on the right. We're going to put the iNav R9 transceiver on the far right. And we're going to put the 433 on the far left. So we'll have 4 radios, and we will put the 2 radios that are I should say that don't depend on, you know, that the cable lengths won't matter as much. Let's put it that way, which would be the 433 and the R9. So we'll put those on the outer edges. And also that will give us the control link we want as far away from all the noise as possible, because that's the most important link. Of course, the second most important link would be the video transmitter, and that is pretty close to the ESC. So ideally, this would be out on the wing somewhere. But I don't think that's how I'm going to do it on these builds. They're going to go like this. And one of the next live streams might be, or I might do it off a live stream, is design it. Accuracy. Yeah, that's true, Caroline. I agree with that. There's no reason it needs to be in the center. Exactly. I know. It's just kind of like a thing, like, I don't know. It doesn't need to be in the center at all. So the VTX, I'm going to design a little mount to hold it here, because the way I did it here is very janky, and this is for these builds are for actual other people besides myself, being Andy and Kevin. So I'm going to put it on Thingiverse too, so I'm going to try to be a little less janky with the whole thing. The Thingiverse for this plane has a different mount for the camera up here. It has this actual thing where there's a piece for the VTX in the front. But I found every time you crash it, you break the VTX. So that didn't work out so well. So I moved it back here. And I just shoved it in there with pieces of foam and stuff. Okay, I digress. I think we're coming to the end, folks. That was part 4. So what'll happen next is I'm going to... Yes, it's definitely time. I said I would go for 2 hours. It's exactly 2 hours. So, AeroPod 5.8 gigahertz aerodynamic. Yes, yes, I like that. I like that. That little one that Painless 360 does. He first showed it. That's where I first saw it. That is a great little antenna, or at least it looks like one. I haven't bought one. That would be perfect for this because it could just go underneath the pod. I've got to move to the. I want to try those. Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. Okay, so we built a wing. That's all we did. I'm so sorry. I had planned on getting far enough to go and deal with like figuring out the length of the radio cables so I can start cutting them. But that'll have to be for the next live stream where we will start doing some more wiring. What I will do in between this one and the next one is I've got all these wings here to finish building. I won't bore you by building five more wings on a live stream. That's too much, too boring for the audience. So what we'll get is we'll get all these completed. And then we will move on to the next step. But we are getting there. We are getting there. And like I said, it's not the greatest looking thing, but it doesn't look too bad. That little stripe worked out okay. That's pretty boring, but we want the planes to be visible because we're doing this FPV Combat thing. That's the whole purpose. So it's not the way they look, it's just be able to see them. So that's all I've got. Caroline, thanks for I'm reading your last center pod you are using. Sorts out the main issue. FT arrows having little space for everything. Yes, I like that. That's like I was saying earlier, this little pod thing has been a little fun project for me, and I like it too. I will be putting this exact version on Thingiverse. I have a couple other older versions of this pod on Thingiverse. It's not for everybody though, I have to say. You know, I'd probably get a lot of hate if I ever got known in the community, because it'd be like, this is a shitty plane, this is a shitty pod, this is a shitty blah blah blah. I can understand that, but it's one of my first designs. It's very squarish, but one of my first designs. It's still, my design skills are very lacking in Fusion, so it's okay. But thank you, I appreciate the compliment, and we'll be getting the parts of this together soon. So I'm babbling now, officially babbling. Thanks for watching. I hope you do. Hope you do. And I'm going to watch your video, your most recent foam board creation. So thanks everybody out there. Peace out and have a happy Monday. Where is my button for that? Thanks for watching. See you next time, Caroline.